Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Your Success. My name is Marjorie Roman, and here we have in the house Dan Olsen, our friend coach. How are you doing?
I'm amazing, and I thank you for referring to me as with that endearing title. To be a coach is an honor, and I take that very seriously. And I want to give my best whenever I coach somebody or something. I always want to give my best to that person. So it's a wonderful title next to husband and father or grandfather or whatever title you have here on this earth. Coach is, I think, one of those best ones that we can ever have.
And not only a coach, I would say also a mentor, because you truly are an inspiration for us to get into franchising and start growing our investments that way.
Thank you.
So, today we're going to be talking about growth again with our franchises, how to scale a franchise, but we're going to be talking about the multiple brand approach. We have talked about the non retail, also the retail, and now it's the multiple brand approach. So, what does it mean in your experience to own multiple brands of franchises?
Yeah. So, sometimes you think about, okay, I'm just going to jump in and be focused on this one brand and get as many as I can of that one brand. And that sometimes is a good strategy. But for me and a lot of others that I've worked with, it's nice to have several brands. And once you get used to that program of franchising and you've had some taste of success, it kind of gets in your blood. And so and sometimes we get accused of, wow, here's the next great thing coming along, and next it's the shiny object syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, that we have to jump on the next best thing. So we want to be cautious of that too, but we also don't want to miss out. If there's a tremendous opportunity out there, why would we just continue to focus on one brand? Sure, we can keep doing that, but sometimes our options are limited. Like if you're into a franchise that's already got established, let's say an Orange Theory or even a Massage Envy or whatever it is out there, there's no more locations possible usually. So you're limited by the number you can get. So there's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to do that. The number one reason I think is the diversification, to spread your eggs out into different baskets, as well as get trained on other things that you can do. Because what happens is what I found is you get other brands and you get trained in a little bit different way, and you see all those ideas from that other franchise company that you can apply in your first franchise company. So it's that multiple ways of training, that multiple ways of looking at things that have worked, and you can transfer that back and forth.
That's right. And I feel like it truly helps you understand how a system works because you already had so many experiences with the first one that on the second one, you're like, you know what, I got this. I'm more confident on my skills now at
Yes.
following a proven plan. And also, you were mentioning about the diversification of your assets. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, just like you would diversify when you buy into the stock market, and do you just invest in Apple only and that's it?
Mhm.
Or do you want to get some diversification? You want to look at different stocks, because if that happens to be down a little bit, or maybe you go through a time where the recession or a pandemic or a war or whatever it comes along is affecting that type of business, and you just need to weather that storm a little bit for the next year or 2 years or whatever it is. If you've got this other business over here in a different industry, that helps you offset any of that difficulty and challenge you might have in the existing business. I found that over the years that if I, like, for example, I, at the same time, I owned a hair salon business and I also owned a massage business at the same time. And I found that I could use some of those different things in different times. But the other thing is I got to know more people, and I got to have more influence and be able to use their experience to help build mine rather than just be focused on one thing all the time. And it allowed me to increase my income, and it allowed me, even if I had to, which it really didn't happen with those two, but if I found myself in a place where the one was just maybe having a little hard time, I always had this fallback on the other one. But what it did, it allowed me to have those multiple streams of income, and I think that's essential for anybody in today's world. Is you need those multiple streams of income, whether it's in franchising or whatever it is. I mean, that's the way big time investors, they're investing in different stocks, they're different cryptos or different whatever. They're diversifying. They're putting their money in several different things.
That's right. And I feel like it also gives you more options towards your retirement. Because instead of just relying on, oh no, my 401k, it's awful right now because the rates are awful and in the stock market, you don't have to rely on that because you actually have your franchises that are really good and thriving. What other ways have you seen that having multiple brands help you secure your retirement?
Yeah. So the idea behind the multiple brands is just, it makes a lot of sense in many different ways as I've experienced that. Probably the bigger way is that each franchise company has some way of doing research and development. So they're up on the latest technology. For example, one franchise company that I had with their franchise, they had this software that was going okay. You know, it was providing a way for the franchisee to manage their whole system and a way for us to remotely go online and actually look at the sales volumes, the things that were going on. But then got to a point where that software was not big enough or robust enough to actually take care of all the new franchisees coming on board. So they had to switch. And they got some new software in, which was just this whiz bang software, allowed us to do even more and analyze even more numbers and things for our business, to help us do even better business. So now I'm sitting here in this area with the technology improved, and I'm sitting in this other franchise company where it's still the same. I mean, they've had that same software for years. And so now we're able to say, hey guys, look what we did over here. Let's look at the same thing here. And wasn't that big a deal to find a new software provider or reprogram what we were doing so we could upgrade that software. So it just gives more insights and more things, and more access to new technology, more access to more research and development. That's another big way that it helps with diversification.
That's right. And also, I feel like just by having those two different brands of franchises together, you were kind of building each other up to increase the revenue on both of them. I feel like that also gets applied towards marketing purposes, I believe, right? How have you seen how marketing overlaps between having two brands?
Yeah, a lot of the basic system is the same. The offers are going to be different, of course, but the system in offering that value is often the same, and the system for how we sell it often is the same. So the marketing makes a huge difference on how we manage those the processes. But the other thing is that I think about when I look at marketing is that it's universal from brand to brand. Marketing with some twist in it allows us to succeed. But here's the other thing that helped me. So I've still got to manage the legal side of the business. I've got to manage the financial side. I got to look at the accounting. I got to look at HR. I got to look at several different things that the business needs. Marketing, of course, is one of those. So now if I've got a couple different brands, I can centralize that. I can use the same accountant and system. I can use the same legal. I can use the same HR. I can use the same payroll program if I want. I can use the same merchant card processing that I'm able now to negotiate a better deal because I've got more out there. But that allows me to manage at a much more efficient rate using those internal services, and sometimes they're external services. But I usually get a better rate and more efficiency because I can put those all together, even though they're managing two different brands, two different industries, two different types of stores, or non-brick and mortar or brick and mortar store. It's allowed me to maximize that efficiency in a much better way because there is some overhead to take care of those functions of accounting and legal and insurance sometimes even.
Oh wow. So tell me, have you ever had an experience when you actually owned a non-brick and mortar and a brick and mortar, both of them at the same time?
Yeah, and not only that, I've had several friends that have had that. And I'll give you an example of one of my friends. He actually opened a hair salon, master franchise, and he opened several hair salons himself. So it was going along great, but he was always looking for new ways to advertise and bring more guests, as they call them, into their spa, into their salon. So along comes this new opportunity to have direct mail marketing program. And he thought, you know what, I'm doing well with this. I'm going to acquire the direct mail marketing program for my area too. So he did that. And that was a non-brick and mortar. So he ended up hiring salespeople
Hmm.
And they went out and called on other businesses to fill the envelope to be able to do the direct mail program. And then he was allowed to put his business in there at almost no cost, except for maybe a little bit of the printing. So he was able to advertise more efficiently at a much lower cost because he owned the media. And that was a non-brick and mortar business combined with a brick and mortar business that helped support each other. So not only did both businesses thrive, they helped support each other, which became more vertically integrated on how they did it. And of course, you could take it even to other layers by bringing software or other services into there, to not only for the non-brick and mortar, but the brick and mortar. So you can bring all the different solutions in there. And like I talked about before, the HR and things like that are very, very important to manage properly during your business.
That is so cool. And yeah, it's awesome that you can literally just benefit from both of them and make sure that both of the businesses that you're working with get to build each other up. So now in the case that I wanted to buy like multiple brands, is there like any financial incentive, or how does one go about funding those two brands? Because they are not related. So do
Yeah,
they
they're
have
not
anything?
related. And so you don't, one of the things you would want to consider is when you're focused on one brand, the first franchise fee is usually X amount. Let's say it's $45,000. The second franchise fee is usually dropped down to say 35,000. So you can expand by bringing additional units on at a much lower cost at 35,000. But now when you go over to the second brand, they're not going to give you credit for having purchased that franchise and dropped your fee down. You still got to pay the first amount, and say that franchise fee is 50,000. So you still pay the 50,000. But once you get in the door and you're a qualified franchisee, then you can acquire the more franchises at a lower cost. So there's investment wise, other than some of the back end support that you already have in place and things you've already accomplished, there are some streamlined things that you can utilize to save money on that second franchise brand that you bring on board. But a lot of times when you get that first one up and running, it's still going to cost basically the same, which is still a good deal. If you've considered it a great franchise, still a wonderful deal and a wonderful return on your investment as you follow their system.
That's right. And so, how does one go about managing those two different brands? Because I mean, they may share some similarities, but I know that they may be different also. What are some of the skills that you would recommend us to work on so we can be able to manage multiple brands?
Yeah. So when you look at my friend's example with direct mail and you have a non-brick and mortar, your person you're hiring is a salesperson. Over here in the hair salon business, you're hiring hairstylists. So that's a completely different type of operator and employee and person that you have in your franchise. So that can be a little more challenging. But the point is, what you want to look at is the numbers. If it makes sense on the numbers wise and you're satisfied that other franchisees are doing well as also with it, then why would you want to turn down an opportunity to put those numbers on the board, even though there may be in certain circumstances no economies of scale by doing that? Bottom line is you put your foot in that door, and then it gives you more opportunities, and you can always sell it down the road if it's not working for you. But the only other thing that makes that sense, which creates that synergism, is you as the franchisee, because once you understand this system of this franchise and you got another system over here of this franchise, that allows you to be more efficient, because now you know two different systems and there's ways to make those systems even sometimes more efficient because of who you are. So you want to apply you into that franchise system, and you are the one, as you get better and you personally develop yourself, it allows you to develop those franchises even better.
Yeah, and I feel like it also comes down to just the owner itself. You need to be able to organize your time and everything so you can make sure that you give the same care to both of those franchises, and also into building them better. So now, how do we know when two brands are a good combination? What are some of the tips that you can give us?
Well, like the other example where you have two to go together very, very well, where you have direct mail promoting the hair care franchise, that's awesome because they help each other. But what happens when you don't have something that's more or less compatible. Um, Now, for example, I'm thinking of A&W root beer franchises combined with KFC. They're related, obviously. They're owned and very related. And so you see those sometimes co-branded, where you have those two stores together. And so what happens, even though you've got two different brands, two different signs, two different everything, you've got two different menus, but you have the same staff operating them and you're in the same location. That's what's called co-branding. And that makes a very efficient program, especially in some of the smaller cities where you want to get both of the brands in there, but maybe there's not the support for one of those brands. But when you put them together, they end up multiplying the success even bigger because you're able to supply those brand names in one location. So that's co-branding is very, very efficient that way. But when you're looking at in places where you can't always co-brand and you have to set them up separate, the only thing there is that one of the big advantages that you'll have is you'll be able to see your locations on the first brand that are doing well. And oftentimes it's not only the staff that you have or the system that you're following from the franchise, but it's the real estate location you have. So if you've got a really good real estate location and there's another one opening up in the same center, and you want to open up your another brand that even though let's say it's two different food type franchises, or it could be a food franchise in a med spa or something, or hair care, or whatever, you can still open those two up. But the nice thing about having that also is the proximity of it. So now when you go to those locations, you're spending less time having to travel across town to one and go across town to the other. You've got them both in the same parking lot. So there is usually some time efficiency there for you as well.
That's cool. Yeah, and I feel like it also makes sense on making sure that your investment, not only money wise but also time wise, gets taken care of when you're opening those two locations. So that's a really good thing to take a look at before buying a second brand. So tell us a little bit more about like the A&W
KFC.
and KFC. How does that work together with the co-branding? What is it?
Well, it's really cool. And I'm thinking of one location that I've frequented, and it's not in a big city, it's in a medium-sized city. So they're able to, and you would probably only have one KFC. Maybe you could have a second KFC in that city, but there's for sure probably would only be one A&W in that whole city. And it wouldn't be useful to probably put another one across town because it's not that big a town. You can easily drive and get there in 5 minutes on any part of the town. So what happens is you might have to have a couple of more staff members because now you've got a bigger menu and you have a bigger attention. And it's nice because, especially if you have children, which I've gone through many times, if someone says, "Oh man, I don't want chicken," they just don't want it. Someone said, "No, I want chicken." So then you can go and say, "Okay, you can have this hot dog or this hamburger over here, and you can have your chicken." So, or a grilled cheese or whatever you want. It has something for everybody. So there's more variety to it, but yet you don't have as big a staff. So it's not like you're saying it's double the staff. It's making more efficient the staff that you have there. And you still have the drive-through. And when you go through the drive-through, you can have you can get whatever is on the menu. I think of another place when we go on trips. Sometimes I'll admit it. Okay, I'm going to admit it. Oh, no. Sometimes I'll go to Taco Bell. Okay, all right. So Taco Bell is okay for certain things for me. I like Mexican food, so we'll go there. But they also have a Long John Silver's in the same facility. Oh. So if I'm going there with a friend and I don't want a taco, oh, they got shrimp. Okay, I'll take that shrimp. Oh, wow. And so it allows the variance of the menu, but there's efficiency because you're not increasing the staff by double. In that you're usually not increasing the location or the rent by double either. So there's a lot of efficiencies by co-branding that.
I would also say the equipment itself, because you can probably share some of the equipment from the one brand that you have with the other one.
Always.
So now my question is like, how does that co-branding work with the companies, the franchisors? Are all franchisors like willing to have you co-brand with another?
No.
Or how do you go about that?
Some of them are very strict on that and even state that in their agreement that no, you cannot do anything that's related to this type of business. So, it might be, a hair care franchise or something. So no, you couldn't have a hair care franchise that only does cuts and but I want a hair care company that does full service. I want to do colors and styles and things like that. You usually don't put those together, especially if they're two different brands. I've seen them across the parking lot from each other, but usually not together as a co-branding situation. So it just depends on completely the franchise and what they're willing to do. But many of them will allow that. But in fact, if it's going to increase their sales volume, obviously they want that.
And if you were to co-brand, let's say two restaurants such as, let's say KFC and A&W, for example, would you be paying the initial fees to both of the brands, or how
Yes.
does that work?
Yeah, you still got to pay the initial fees, but usually since they're the same company, they might relax the second fee somewhat since they're owned by the same company.
Oh, that is really cool. And I feel like it also gives you more flexibility towards like owning both of them, because let's say that you love both of the brands, you can still have that possibility of scaling your business with them. Well,
Correct.
thank you so much again, Dan. Super insightful as always. And it really gives us more options for making sure that our businesses grow as much as possible. Thank you so much again.
Thank you,
And
Marjorie. Great to be here.
thank you to our audience for being with us. Thank you. See you on our next episode.